hard because I always wanted to be a chef.
Kookaburra?
Good chef.
Well, a very big welcome to Greeks in Melbourne, and thank you more importantly to our first ever guest, Tony Nikolakopoulos, famous from lots and lots of movies, but more importantly, a Greek from Melbourne. Tony, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Tim. I'm the first ever guest.
First ever guest.
Oh, great.
I wanted to start off big. Obviously, you're known for many, many movies and some iconic scenes, but I want to take it back just quickly, where you grew up, streets of Melbourne, etc.
Look, I grew up in an area called Armidale, which is near Paran. Most people know, Melbourne.
Yep.
And it wasn't an overly Greek area. Look, there were a lot of Greeks around, but as it sort of developed, it became a really yuppie area, sort of,
Did you grow up on the streets of, like, similar to Oakleigh?
Ange was in more Paran, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, but I went to Paran High for a little bit, sort of that Armidale area. Then I went over to a school called Oakleigh, where there weren't many Greeks at all, but at Paran High, everyone was Greek. You had your Greek school. I left Greek school after grade 6 because Chelsea slapped me across the face for not having done my homework. So I thought, bugger this. Look, for me, I know I've deviated from your question, but I had this thing where I sort of didn't want the whole Greek thing for a while.
Yeah.
I wanted to just fit in. I wanted to be an Aussie. And it wasn't until much later in my 20s where I sort of regretted that and sort of then had to work backwards and find out. You realise that the Greekness it's in you. It's embedded in you. It's not something you can just sort of like. And then once you embrace it, become proud about it.
Do you think that your Greekness and embracing it has allowed you to succeed in some of the roles that you've been able to land?
Look, my first big acting role was Head On. Christos Chalkis, about Alex Dimitriadis played a character that was Greek, Australian, who goes on this sort of 36-hour sexual exploration, and I played the dad.
Okay.
And I decided to play the dad as a stubborn Greek that refused to speak English to his family, to anyone.
I love that.
And what I used to do was I used to ring my uncle in Greece each night before I had filming the next day and just have a Greek conversation with him because it helped with the propera.
Yeah.
Stopped me from thinking in English and translating and kept me forward thinking in Greek. So, but I think that was a really huge turning point. Having been in Greece, I had won an award to go to Greece and work with the theatre companies over there. And then getting that role and then making that decision, so I embraced it. There was no going back after that.
I love that. We're obviously situated here in Oakleigh.
Vanilla?
At Vanilla, of course, by the beautiful Spanos family. Do you travel down here much?
I do like coming to Oakleigh, not just for Souvlakia.
Of course.
But I try and share the love.
Yeah, I love that.
I go to Nikos, Vanilla and Melissa are the main three. And my favourite spot for Souvlaki is obviously Kalimera.
I love Kalimera too. Kalimera is beautiful, I must say. And from the point of view of Greek, where do you come from, or your family come from?
Yeah. Both my parents are from Peloponneso, near Pilo. Okay. Dad's from a village called Petrochori, and my mum's from a village that was called Veli. And they're both down that sort of Pilo between Pilo and Kipalisia.
Do you go back much?
I have been. I don't always go down to the village. I've got this thing that I want to see something new each time. So last year we were in Greece, I went to Kalkidiki, which I'd never been to. I went to a different part of Crete that I hadn't been to. And I went to a different part of Santorini and stayed in a part where I hadn't been to before. It was like a little village. I met some great artists down there. Where else did I go? Athens, yeah. But but while I was there, I tried to see different parts of Greece because I feel like it's always good to explore and learn and see new things and meet new people. I'm not one of those people that has to go to the same holiday destination each year.
I love that.
Some people like to book the same place. They want the same room. They want the same view. For me, I love everything to be new.
I've always found that we speak to friends and family, and I have this argument with my partner most years, which is whether we go to Mykonos or not. If you're a Greek from Melbourne, what does it mean to be of that ilk? And second of all, where is your favourite travel destination in Greece for you that you've experienced so far?
Oh, nothing to do with Mykonos?
Nothing to do with Mykonos.
Look, we're outside of Greece. It's the largest diaspora of Greeks living in one city. It means that you can you can celebrate and embrace your Greekness without feeling like you're a foreigner, really, because there's so many of us who have sort of taken over. Yeah, it gives me a sense of belonging, a sense of pride. The thing I get annoyed with, though, is that we're not Melbourne Greeks or Greeks in Australia in general aren't really well represented for their artistic exploits. Yeah? We've only been sort of shown as our sort of that stereotype of Greek. That sort of annoys me. Doing what I can to sort of combat that, but it's hard when you've got a sort of an industry that thinks that Greeks have to be a particular type of build, which we're not. We're so diverse. My favourite holiday spot in Greece, and that's so hard. There's aspects of Hydra
Okay.
that I really love. There's some aspects of Hydra I really love, but I must say, Crete for me, there's something about Crete which is, I don't know, there's something magical about Crete.
I love that.
And look, the first time I went to Mykonos and the first time I went to Santorini, I was just blown away. But having gone back there, 2-3 times, it's like, you don't want to have a holiday in a place that's like a festival.
Yeah. I love that. Touching on Greeks of Melbourne and in the way that we are, obviously you're in a really successful list of people of Greeks of Melbourne who are notable people, and what you guys have done for us. So from us and obviously a lot of our page and followers and the people that we've got, firstly a massive thank you for allowing us to continue to put us on the map. Obviously you've got some iconic scenes that we've all loved and laughed up. We've grown up with some of your movies quite literally, and I was talking to you off air about Alex and Eve, which I absolutely loved, and I thought it was fantastic. WOGBOY, of course, it's a classic, and looking back now, it's created so many beautiful scenes. If there's one more movie that you could make today, what would the storyline be like?
That I'm acting in, or
if that you're producing, directing?
Well, I've got a couple that I am.
That you are already?
Producing and directing and writing. So I've got a TV series called Call the Greek.
Yep.
And that's about Greek Australian, Melbourne. He was a cop, but because of his dealings, he loses his licence. And his wife and his 5 daughters set up an agency that deal with all the underbelly of things that no one else wants to touch. Okay. So it's got your Soprano-esque sort of feels, but it's very much about a Greek family. It's just what they do for business is very much in the underbelly world.
Okay.
So you got that sense of crime, thriller. There's a bit of violence, a bit of action, but there's also, it always comes back to the family. So it's not really glorified, but it just is it. The other one, it's a true story based on a bunch of guys back in 2000, 2002, which were mostly Greeks. One of them was my brother. They entered the five-a-side World Cup Championship that was to be played in Seoul, Korea. And these guys put a team together at the 11th hour. They won Victoria, they went to Sydney, they won Australia, knocked out the AIS. They go to Singapore, they win all of Australasia, knock out the Futsalroos. They go to South Korea, and lo and behold, they actually win. No one knows about it. It's never been discussed. It was never promoted. They are actually the only ever Australian football team to have won a world championship in soccer or football. So our story is to retell that, to obviously make it entertaining and engaging, but also to put the socio-political thread through the film about how they were more obsessed with cleansing the ethnicity out of the game here in Australia. They didn't want to embrace the fact that Greeks and Croatians and Italians and Serbs and this loved this game and wanted to have their own team. Instead, they just quashed it, destroyed it. And you won't remember any of that, but we're talking about games where you have 25,000 people going to a game.
Bob Jones Stadium, NSL days?
It wasn't called Bob Jones.
Lakeside?
Miller Park. Oh, I can't remember what they called it. No. It was Bob Jane at one stage, but before that it was called something. But what I'm saying is that this film's not just about a story about what these lads did, but it's a real Greek Australian story. It talks about everything. So there's those.
And movie and series like that, where can we find them?
No, we haven't made them yet. We're trying to make them.
Amazing.
So the film, I'm working with Chris Anastasiadis, who was the writer of all the Acropolis and all the WOGBOY films, but he also has written 2 Indigenous films as well. He's a really good writer. And the other one, called The Greek, I'm working with Peter Gawler and Peter Antikides. So that's the writer and director of Underbelly and Last King of the Cross. Then there's one other film that I'm shooting in Sydney, but I'm acting in that, and that's called Crooked Chef. That's about gangsters.
Okay. I see where you're going with all these violent films and everything.
I play the mafia boss in that, so that's good. Yeah, look, and there's others. I'm always sort of trying to create. I've just set up a performing arts school. I don't know if you know the Performing Star Academy. And one thing I'm trying to do with there is, because I'm going to open various locations, but one of the locations is going to be the Greek Centre.
Yes, with Bill.
Yeah.
I saw that advertised.
And what I want to do with like I've said, if any of those students that speak Greek, I want them to improvise in Greek. I want them to use their Greek rather than discourage it, which is something I didn't experience when I was going through drama school.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, but I think that's great. If you've got a second language, use it.
Absolutely.
Don't put on an accent to use it. Actually use the language.
I love
Where,
that.
you know, most of the time they say, oh yeah, put on the Greek accent.
And be proud of it.
Yeah.
It's funny, I remember just touching just quickly on how you said about the Greek school you finished in year 6, and when you hit your 20s, I remember I wanted to fit in at about year 7, 8, 9. I'm going back 13, 14, 15. Right. And I wanted, all of a sudden, I said, it was my birthday, and Mum said, what do you want for your birthday, Dimitri? And I said, I want a skateboard. And I took it down to Southland Skate Park, and I looked at this, what it was, and I thought to myself, man, no way.
So you wanted the image.
More than anything, so I can relate to that more than anything.
You just need to walk around with your skateboard, you don't have to do it.
Last question for you. Is this, if you weren't doing the job of acting, which you're producing and everything else, and being an artist the way that you are, what job would you be potentially doing?
It's hard because I always wanted to be a chef.
Crooked one?
Good chef. I grew up in restaurant. Yeah, I wanted to be a chef and have a restaurant and be a restaurant. But it still involved having the guests. You're coming in, you're entertaining them with food. That was something I really wanted to do, but I had to make a decision when I was around year 10 because I was offered an apprenticeship at a really, really good restaurant. But I was really enjoying drama at the same time, so it was that, sliding door moment. And I've entertained it since then. Maybe 3 times I've nearly gone into buying a restaurant.
Really?
But it didn't happen.
I love that.
So now I'll just act that I own a restaurant.
I love it, Tony.
It's hard work, man. It's hard work.
Oh, you're amazing. Well, if
Thanks,
you do end up owning one, get me down, because as you can tell, I eat.
Yeah, I do.
It's all right. You're all right.
We like food.
You're the best. I can't thank you enough for coming on. It's a very short, sharp one. That's the way we like to do them. But more importantly, thank you. Thank you for genuinely everything you do for us, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.